Welcome back to the show where we run you through all the Dolphins news you need to know about. After the news you need to know about, we run you through the fan Q&A where we answer fans' questions. Great week to be a Dolphins fan. We're going to get into all that. But obviously first we'll start with the news you need to know about. This first news story comes from Pro Football Rumors. Dolphins Bradley Chubb, Cameron Good to return to practice. The Dolphins front seven is set to receive a pair of reinforcements excuse me, in the near future. Both Bradley Chubb and Cameron Good could come back into the lineup as early as week 14. We all know Bradley Chubb ACL. I think Cameron Good also suffered, I want to say it was an ACL. Hopefully they come back against Houston. Obviously they didn't play against the Jets. Good really has never flashed too much. So, I mean, whatever. They did put Tyus Bowser on IR, so I guess that could help a little bit. Muhammad Kamara has been getting a lot more play lately, especially in that Jets game. So they're obviously, I guess, a little bit more comfortable with him playing, even though it's kind of wild. It's weird playing a player who hasn't played that much this late in the year, especially when you're trying to win games. But he has been practicing. Obviously, it's way different in game. From what we saw from Muhammad, I mean, I would have to go back and look at it. He didn't do too much. You know, he's a smaller. One thing I will say, noticing, especially in that game, he is definitely a smaller edge player. Especially with his hand in the dirt. Even though he's a really strong player. We'll just see how that kind of develops as his career goes along. Still loved him come out of Colorado State. Great pass rusher, really strong edge setter too in college. A ton of TFLs. So hopefully that can translate to the league. But that was something that I did notice is like, oh man, he is a smaller end. So I kind of got off track there. Anyway, going back to Bradley Chubb and Cameron Good. Hopefully Chubb can come back. That's who's the most important. They really do need him. I mean, I think the number one issue that we've had this year, a lot of the issues, honestly, the whole offensive thing was like, okay, Tua got hurt. That was most of the problems. Yes, the interior offensive line has been a problem at times in games. The Rams game and the Packers game, I think, are the two biggest ones. This Jets game, we really didn't even try to run the football that much. We were playing, our passing game was so dominant. So it was hard to kind of gauge that as much because the interior offensive line has played better. Even in the, I guess you could say even in the latest Patriots game, it wasn't great either in the run game. So yeah, that's an issue. The interior offensive line, it's just not physical enough. You know, Robert Jones, Liam Eichenberg, I don't know, those guys could definitely be replaced. You know, I think we can all agree on that. So yeah, that's an issue on offense. But defensively, there's a few issues. I think the two biggest ones is coverage in the middle of the field, whether that be the slot corner position or the middle linebacker position is a problem. And then the playmaking on the front seven is way too inconsistent. So especially when we need them the most to close out games in big moments, it's been a really big problem. Whether it was the Bills game, Bills game on the road, the Cardinals game, this game, and I'm sure I'm missing other ones. It's been a problem. It's been a very, very big problem. I think we're very low. I think we only have like 20-something sacks, which is like we at this point in the year last year we almost had double that. So you can really see like the injuries to those players. We took a huge hit there, and losing Van Ginkel too really hurt. Those three guys in rotation, I think at least Chris did a good job of replacing Van Ginkel with Chop if they move forward with Chubb. Obviously Phillips, I would hope, is in the future plans. But yeah, that's a huge problem defensively. It's just getting after the passer. on a consistent basis, especially as games go on. Thank God Calais Campbell and Zach Sealer made those big plays at the end of the game. But yeah, too many times in that game, we just couldn't get off the field on third down. We really never pressured. Well, I wouldn't say that. The refs kind of got in the way a few times of that in that game. There was some kind of like, all right, that was a call. There are two that I can think of: the Zach Sealer hold and the Jalen Ramsey pass interference. I mean, the Zach Sealer hold negated a sack. But like I said, just front seven, even in the run game, just not enough playmaking there and disruption consistently. And sometimes it really does hurt us. I think the number one issue, though, defensively, is just coverage in the middle of the field has been terrible all year. Dude, even this game was a picture perfect. Like, it was awful. The amount of times that they just checked a ball down in the middle of the field and went for like 17 yards is way too much. Way too much. Not to mention the tackling issue in this game was back. And it wasn't just because Garrett Wilson is really, I mean, he does that to everybody. It was everybody else on their team that kept just breaking tackles. And it hurts my head to think about it, because this has been a problem, especially against Buffalo within the division, for 3 years. And it's getting worse. It's the worst it's ever been now. And it has to be fixed. And especially in this Ravens defense, you need a good middle linebacker. And hopefully we can find that this offseason, because it's just too easy over the middle. And honestly, God bless him, but Kader Kohou, who I thought was having a pretty good year at the start of the season, especially when we went on that tear defensively when Tua got hurt, but ever since then, he's been super inconsistent. And I just feel like that we have to find, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it has more to do with the linebackers more than it does him, but I feel like sometimes, and not just feel like, I know, he's just so inconsistent. And he does give up a lot of big plays, and he even gave up a big play in this game. Even against the Patriots too. Like, I could think of a few big plays, more than a few big plays he's given up this season, and a lot of them are busted coverages. I just feel like maybe we can get a veteran player there to kind of help out next year, or maybe we draft somebody. I don't know. We need to get a good nickel corner, because I feel like a lot of the great defenses in the league have a really good nickel corner, and obviously at least comparable linebackers in the middle of the field. So that's something that the Dolphins, and especially and Kader Kohou is an absolute zero in run defense, which is a part of playing nickel defense. And can't remember the last time he did anything in the run game. So whether they might move Jalen Ramsey there next year, I don't know. That is something to think about. I wouldn't mind them drafting in a corner on the outside, and maybe Jalen plays that kind of safety nickel role that he did with the Rams. That might be a really, I think a good idea. But I think those two positions defensively clearly have to change. And then, like we were just talking about with Bradley Chubb coming back, they need more playmaking up front. That's been a problem in some of these bigger moments. But it's good that he's coming back. Who knows where he'll be health-wise, and hopefully he can play against the Texans. I mean, I don't know if we really want to, this is on here, but this comes from Pro Football Rumors. Robert Hunt felt disrespected by his contract extension offer. Robert Hunt said, quote, "Late in December, they made an offer. I just thought it was a little disrespectful. I screamed that we're not going to pay. It screamed that they weren't going to pay." Obviously, he moves on to Carolina. I mean, we definitely missed him this season. I think shout out to Butch Barry and Mike McDaniel, because they've done a really good job with the offensive line, especially developing players like Patrick Paul. And I guess that's really what I want to focus on. Patrick Paul looked phenomenal. I know a lot of people are like, oh, what are they going to do without Armstead? I mean, he looked phenomenal. Every time he's had to play in any capacity, whether it was in the preseason or in this Jets game, he looked great. Like, he looked really good. The goal line, the rushing touchdown would not have happened without Patrick Paul. He completely, I mean, he moved the guy all the way into the end zone. And even in pass protection, he was, like, as soon as he got his hands on, now granted, wasn't the best pass rushers in the world, but he dominated his matchup, which is what you want to see, especially in a rookie tackle who's not played at all. So I think the Dolphins are going to be just like, if Armstead does decide to retire, they have a really good tackle for the future. Like, Patrick's a really good player. So now, I mean, I've just been really impressed with what I've seen from him so far. I doubt it would. I couldn't see him just, cascading and becoming a bust. I highly doubt that. It seems like Chris really found a good player in the second round, so that's good. But again, they definitely missed that interior presence, and Aaron Brewer, who's been a godsend, but they just need to find a. I'm not even. They could keep Eichenberg, but if their future is running off behind Paul, a mystery guard. Hopefully they add a new guard in Brewer. That's fine, but just maybe find one guard. That's it, a good guard, and hopefully they can find someone like who is like a Brewer who's physical, and even Patrick Paul, like physical player. And I like the kind of identity that they're developing at that position, because that's something that and everybody talks about. It's like, oh, physical, tough. Getting more players like that only helps, especially on the offensive line. And hopefully they can find a Richie Incognito type to kind of plug in between Paul and Brewer for the future. I think that would be pretty good for Tua. But yeah, when you're looking at the offseason moves, some hits, some misses, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, Jordan Poyer was a huge whiff. I felt like Kendall Fuller was a pretty good get. He's been good, even though, I mean, he's probably going to be a one and done in Miami. I mean, we'll see. But that's probably likely. Hunt going, not great. Van Ginkel probably was the biggest hit. And not getting him, honest to God, not getting Patrick Queen was a huge mistake. And I know the Dolphins were in the running for his services, but, like, they really should have done more to get him, because that would have made such a big difference this year, and they have to address that this season. They really have to get better in the middle of the field. Just look at Josh Allen's stat. Now, obviously, Josh Allen's got ridiculous stats against us, but a lot of if you break down the numbers, a lot of it is in the middle of the field, and that has to change. Okay, so let's get into this Jets game. I think that's it for the news. I don't think I missed too much. I do want to read this Tua stat, which is, I mean, there's a lot of them. I mean, the completion percentage record he's in line to beat this season, which was held by Drew Brees. He broke a Dan Marino record recently that I want to read. He has 11 touchdowns in 4 weeks, or maybe since he came back. I can't remember the exact timeline on that, but let me get this stat really quick. The point is Tua is playing the best football of his career. I think he's had a phenomenal year. Even in the games that we've lost with him, weren't his fault. Like, not even. I mean, the reason we were even in those games was because of him. In the Packers game, I thought he played good football. Yes, he could have hit like a couple of the Devon A-Chain miss. There was another. I can't remember who it was, but there was another one over the middle that he probably should have hit. But other than that, I mean, even Joe Burrow and Herbert on Monday Night Football misses a walk-in touchdown. It happens. Like, you're not gonna hit every throw, and he's almost hitting every throw. but he's not the reason we lost in that game. In fact, we should have been a lot closer in that game if it wasn't for other things that were going on. Here's a few stats that I want to read before we get into the game. This comes from Travis Winfield's Twitter. By the way, shout out to Travis Winfield. He's done a really good job with Dolphins content. With his third consecutive 300-yard passing performance, Tua Tagovailoa joined Dan Marino as the only quarterbacks in team history to record 3 consecutive games for 300 yards. Tua's streak of 300-yard games with 2 touchdowns and no interceptions is the longest streak in franchise history, which is pretty crazy. And he's in line to break the completion percentage. The completion percentage record held by Drew Brees. There's so many other stats. There was another stat I read that he was had to do with completion percentage in Joe Montana. I cannot remember. I wish I would have saved that one. But the point is he's having a really, really good season. Since he's come back from injury, he's held pretty much every major category a quarterback can have, which is pretty impressive. So yeah, he's having a great season, and I would if I made it to and this is the first time I think I've said this, but if I were to make a top 10 quarterback list, I would definitely put him in this year. I think it's obvious it's not just this year, but the last 2 seasons, but I think especially this year. I think he's definitely one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's definitely one of the best pocket passers. It's not even close in the league. And so, yeah, Tua is just having a phenomenal season. To have 11 touchdowns and 0 interceptions over these last few weeks is just impressive in itself, not to mention the completion percentage. Not to mention he's the reason our offense even moves the football. We saw that this year. Mike McDaniel, I think, does a great job game planning. But Tua is a great player and a great quarterback. And honestly, I think the real shift play calling wise this year has even, I think, helped him, because I feel like this style of offense fits him really well with the quick passing game and really mastering that part of it, which is something that we weren't masters of, especially the first 2 seasons. But I think the addition of Jonnu Smith has really helped that. And it was fun watching this game. Obviously, Dolphins defeat Jets 32-26 in overtime. We'll start with the offense side of the football. But the fact that the Jets had to double team Jonnu Smith on their down sometimes led to other people being open. And it just was like, wow. Like, it just, that alone, having those 3 players, hopefully for a long time to come, it opens a whole lot of other things, and it helps out the quick passing game, because Jonnu is such a threat when it comes to breaking tackles and run after the catch. And he gives, and we've talked about this before, but especially in the red zone, he's a bigger target, and to have a viable weapon who's a bigger target in the passing game has really helped the offense a lot. So we know about Tua, phenomenal game. Made some really big throws in this game on third down, especially that 3rd and 10 on the drive to tie it. The touchdown to Tyreek Hill is underrated, because so many times you see in the NFL when teams run that zero blitz look, so many quarterbacks panic and just throw the most inaccurate pass. It's whether it's off their back foot, but he was so calm and just threw perfect pass. And the same thing to Waddle. That throw, there's a lot of quarterbacks that would have missed that throw in the NFL, and that throw was perfect. And it was good coverage by the Jets too on that 2-point conversion. Trying to think of negatives. When we really stalled out, from those 2 drives in the second half. Honestly, I can't. I mean, it just kind of happened that way. It is what it is. The lack of the run game. Devon Achane had 14 carries, which is kind of hard to believe for 24 yards and a touchdown. It was definitely concerning. And again, we talked about it. I think the Dolphins do need to at least definitely add a guard and get more physical up front. So I think we all know that. Tyreek Hill had 100 yards in this game on 10 catches, I believe. He had 10 catches, 115 yards. Waddle almost went for 100 yards in this game, 9 catches for 99 yards. Devon Achane with 6 catches, 45, and Jonnu Smith, who closed out the game for us. That's the core of the offense for the future, and they just have to build around that. And I hope Tyreek comes back, even though he hasn't looked the most healthy this year, and I think that's been obvious. I hope he comes back one more season, at least one more year. We get Tyreek Hill. Defensively, we talked about it already. It was just, I mean, how many yards? Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams went for 100 yards. There were just so many bad plays defensively in this game. Like, so many. And again, this was not a good Cater Coco game. This was actually one of the worst of his career. A huge busted coverage to Devontae Adams down the middle of the field. He gives up a red zone touchdown on a sprint out, which he just didn't do anything. He was really bad in this game. I thought all of the corners played pretty bad football in this game. Tackling was terrible. Thank God Zach Sealer and Calais Campbell are on this team, because they really made the biggest defensive plays of the day. And again, the refs did extend some of those Jets drives on terrible calls. Like, I understand that we got the call in the red zone, but that was pass interference. Like, he was wrestling him in the end zone, which is hilarious because it's Tyreek Hill. And again, I don't know why we're targeting Tyreek Hill on a red zone target when we have Odell Beckham or even Jonnu Smith we could throw in there. I don't understand why we do that. On a fade is what I mean. Obviously, we scored on a hour out. But I don't know why we throw Tyreek fades, but that's besides the point. The point is yeah, those 2 calls were pretty significant because they led to Jets points that weren't good calls. Those calls were terrible. But yeah, like again, the things we talked about earlier, just the middle of the field was easy. Pass rush was way too inconsistent for most of the game. It was non-existent, except in some big moments where Zach Sealer made some plays, and that was pretty much it. Jordan Brooks got a coverage sack. That doesn't really count. Chop, I thought, looked pretty good in this game. He had a few pressures. Definitely, I think one of them probably his more quiet games. No, I wouldn't say that. I think he did get a holding call in this game. Chop's pretty good. I've said that all year. He's having a pretty good, I think, a really pretty solid rookie year, and he's way better than I thought he would be. Yeah, Anthony Walker. Jordan Brooks is fine. Anthony Walker is terrible. Jordan Brooks is a good 2, but not a 1. Yeah, the tackling is just it's sad, is what it is. We just have to play better, dude, defensively. I really would, if I'm Anthony Weaver this week, I'm thinking of all the way, do I move Ramsey to slot, and do I put Storm Duck and just see for a drive or a practice how that goes? Because I feel like that would help in the run defense, and it would help with the tackling, just in general. Because more plays go towards a slot corner. And at least we would have Ramsey in the middle of the field. And it doesn't help with some of the other stuff, but I don't know. And like I said, maybe it would help with tackling. But we have to figure out, or remove Javon Hall in the middle linebacker. As ridiculous as that sounds, What are they going to do? Like, they have to improve that position. They have to do something with like Holland, who did drop an interception in this game. Dude, we have to do something to help with that. And with the whole pass rush thing, hopefully in run defense, Bradley Chubb comes back against Houston. But this was a great game. Great Dolphins. There's that great video of the crowd reacting to the Jonnu Smith touchdown. Great crowd. I was really like, I always love, like, obviously you're always looking at the crowd and how well the home crowd is doing, and it was a great home crowd. But yeah, that really is the core. I don't like the whole, like, the Dolphins have, and I don't even know why I'm even having to say this, but yes, the Dolphins have their quarterback for many years to come. And also, what else was I going to say? It just blows my mind because as a longtime Dolphins fan, have to deal with like some of the worst quarterbacks imaginable, and it wasn't even that long ago. It's just crazy. Like, we're the most snobby fan base when it comes to quarterbacks, and we have and the whole, like, the old heads can come out and be like, yeah, Dan Marino. The younger, like, most of, like, they have no idea, and they should. And I think maybe that's where it kind of clashes in the fan base, is old heads versus some of the newer guys, because it's like, yeah, like, this is the best by far we've ever had, and not only that, but I think he's just a great player. So I don't know where that comes from, the snobby quarterback stuff in this fan base, but yeah, I'm excited for the rest of the year. I still think this offense is fun. Defensively, it's a little bit it's frustrating. Hopefully they can fix or try to do something different to help fix it. But yeah, they're definitely, this offseason and draft, gotta fix those areas specifically. And I don't know what they're gonna do. I hope they fix it, but it's like I could totally see them picking a ding. Who knows what they're gonna do in the first round of this draft? And free agency is a whole nother thing. It's going to be a stressful offseason, let's just put it that way. So that's it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.